Hey everyone, Mitch coming from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, well, let's take a peek at what the most popular cards are from the Lord of the Rings set, because, well, it's been out for a couple of weeks now, and we've got to see what cards have risen to the top. What is the cream of the crop from the set? And I do say the set because, yes, there are the precons as well, but those numbers can be a little bit wonky to start off with because, well, they're in precons, and some players upload their entire precon deck to, deck sites, and then therefore, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, and then therefore that kind of skews the numbers to be like, yeah, all these precon cards are very heavily played. So, let's jump into it regardless. Starting off at number 10. And coming in at 10th place, we've got, well, a very interesting card. We've got Nazgul. Nazgul is a 1/2 Wraith Knight with Death Touch that costs 2 and a black. Enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, put a +1 counter on each Wraith you control. And most importantly, and why this card sees so much play already at, I should already said, 6.8%, there you go. A deck can have up to 9 cards named Nazgul. Now, basically, these kind of Persistent Petitioners type cards, Relentless Rats type cards, Shadowborn Apostles type cards can be very, very popular, and players love building decks around them. And this one obviously fits very well into the Lord of the Nazgul deck, and players are loving this card. I mean, right now, this is the lowest cost version of the card. It is an uncommon, but it is just $12. $12. That is a ton, especially for an uncommon coming out of the gates from a set. But yeah, when players are trying to collect all the different 9 versions of this, and again, this is the least expensive version of it out of the 9, yeah, these can skyrocket in price quite quickly, become quite popular quite quickly, because this card, again, is seeing basically 9 times as much play as other cards in a deck. So yeah, this card is seeing a ton of play already. Not all that surprising if you kind of think about, again, players loving these types of cards, these types of synergies. It's a really cool effect, and again, when you can, break the rules of Singleton, break the rules of Commander and use 9 of them, that's a pretty cool thing. So yeah, a $12 card, and again, already seeing play in 6.8% of decks. But now let's move on to 9th place, and coming in 9th place at 6.9% of eligible decks out there, we've got Last March of the Ents. This is a heavy-hitting, game-ending card. My goodness, can this do so much work for you. A mythic, definitely mythic power level, green card. Sorcery for 8 mana in total, 6 green. It can't be countered, so yeah, game-ending can't be countered. Let's see what this does. Draw cards equal to greatest toughness among creatures you control. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand on the battlefield. Yeah, there's a reason why this is a $14 card already, nearly $15, and it already sees play in like 7% of eligible decks. There's plenty of decks out there that have a lot of giant creatures, and this is just like, hey, you got a big creature out there? Great, let's just cast this, let's draw an absurd amount of cards, and then with that, just dump our entire hand of creatures into play, essentially. This already would have been a crazy good card with just like, yeah, draw a couple of cards, or draw like 3 cards, then dump, a number of creature cards from your hand into play, any number of creatures. It is absurd, or either way around, essentially. It's like a risk card's expertise, yeah, for 2 mana more, but sure, instead of just cheating into play something that's like 5 or less, essentially, you're like, no, yeah, every creature from your hand, just cheat right into play. Game-ending card, most definitely. Again, there's a lot of creature-based strategies out there. This is a fantastic effect. And even though, again, it is $15, which is a pretty expensive card, definitely way out of my $1 budget, hey, it's already seeing play again in 7% of decks, and I personally only expect that number to go up. And if this card is ever reprinted, maybe that price can come down, and I highly doubt it's ever come within my budget, but maybe, you never know. But now let's move on to 8th place. Coming in at 7.3% of eligible decks so far, we've got Barad-dûr. Yeah, a legendary land that is pretty fantastic. Enters the battlefield, tap unless you control your legendary creature. Well, you are playing Commander, and chances are you might have your Commander out when you play this, so cool. Play it into play untapped. Or if you've got legendary tribal deck or whatnot, you definitely have other things. Anyways, tap for a black, pay XX and a black, tap, amass Orcs X, activate only if a creature died this turn. So, kind of like a free utility land, not entirely free, right? There is the downside that it could come into play tapped. There is that potential. Also, your typical, tutors for lands aren't going to be able to get this. Like a Farseek can't get this because obviously this is not a swamp. That being said, yeah, it is basically swamp potential of coming to play untapped, tapping right away, but also have the potential to just be like, hey, you can dump mana when you want into that activate ability to just say, like, you know what? Let's just make a creature token. Why not? Let's just amass orcs 1. Sure, for 3 mana. If you've got mana lying around, do that. Cool, you get a little army, a little 1/1. Can be really good in a aristocrat style strategy where maybe you have ways to sacrifice that because you really might not care about, getting that army to be quite big, because again, with the army mechanic, you can't go wide, you can only go tall, and that's worse in a lot of token strategies. That being said, still, hey, yeah, make that token, sacrifice it, use it as a chump blocker, whatever you need to do. Again, especially effective in decks that really you just want to use that as creature fodder. And again, it is a utility land that can just come into play untapped a lot of the time. I mean, it depends on the commander. There are certain commanders that you might not want to get into play all the time, or you might have a hard time protecting, so keep that in mind, or if you don't have other legendaries in the deck. But yeah, a lot of times, again, for a lot of decks out there, it's just basically like, oh, an easy slot in include to like a mono black deck to be like, yeah, sure, why not utilize that utility land that most of the time is going to come to play untapped. So not surprised to see it on the list again. 7.3%, good enough for 8th place. But now let's move on to 7th place with a somewhat similar land, coming in at 8.7% of eligible decks already at $1.37. Enters the battlefield, taps control a legendary creature. We've seen that before. This is going to be on Rivendell, another legendary land. This time in blue, taps for a blue, obviously. Pay 1 in a blue, tap scry 2, activate only control a legendary creature. So there is that kind of requirement again. Like Bardor said, hey, you know what? A creature had to die this turn. But again, obviously, if you're in a Scrat style strategy, you can make that happen. This one's more so, hey, legendary creature comes to play untapped, legendary creature as well, now you can activate this. 2 mana to scry 2 is a great effect on a land, and again, you're going to pretty much have access to this most of the time. Again, if you've got a deck that's built around a commander, typically you're going to want to get your commander out and yeah, be able to activate this as well. So obviously this can play really well in certain decks out there, like I think Elgith Prosperous Augur, that's the Sphinx's name, I believe. That's like, hey, scrying is now just draw. Yeah, that is incredible in that kind of a deck, or other decks that really care about scrying or getting certain things on top. This can be incredible. And again, basically just a utility land with very, very limited downside to it. Again, just basically the potential of just being just as good as an island, essentially, coming to play untapped, tapping for it. You can't tutor for it in a lot of ways. But also, hey, just get into play, and then, yeah, utilize it to scry throughout the game for some fantastic card selection. Not surprising to see this already up so high on the list. But now let's move on to 6th place, coming in at 9.8% of eligible decks out there. The Shire. That's right, yet another legendary land. This one in green, though. Again, exact same thing. Enter the battlefield tapped if you don't control that legendary creature. That being said, if you do, cool. Basically a forest. Also, on top of that, pay 1 in green, tap an untapped creature control, create a food token. We've been getting more and more of these food-type commanders, ones that care about tokens. I mean, there's plenty of commanders out there that previously started to care about tokens, like Chatterfang's like, hey, yeah, any ways to make tokens, doesn't matter what they are, could be food, could be treasure, doesn't matter, give me them, because they'll give you squirrels. So, yeah, being able to do that can be fantastic, obviously. Utilizing that food and sacrificing it for, well, life gain can be great as well for certain decks out there. Again, the low bar for this card is just, you know what? Hey, it's utility land that enters the battlefield tapped. This one doesn't have that requirement as the previous ones did for an activation. Like, again, they scry 2, you need a legendary in play. And then the other one was, what, again, a creature to die this turn. This one, I guess, technically the requirement is you need an untapped creature, which is a very low requirement, probably the lowest requirement out of all of those. So, yeah, this is just a free way to say, hey, you got extra mana lying around before your turn. Again, these don't have any, like, activate only as sorcery requirements. That would definitely change the value of the cards. So this, again, hey, you got free mana at the end of, your opponent's turn before yours. Cool. Utilize that mana. Get a food token. Utilize it, again, in different ways, depending on the deck that you're in. Life gain, creating extra tokens, whatever it is, have fun with that. So yeah, again, just a very solid utility land that I'm not surprised to see coming in at 6th place. Next up, coming in at 5th place, let's move away from the lands at least for a little bit, and we've got a 10.9% of eligible decks out there. Call of the Ring, an enchantment for 1 and a black, so just 2 mana, very low to the ground. At the beginning of your upkeep, the Ring tempts you. That can be very spicy for a lot of decks out there getting tempted by the Ring and be like, yeah, let's just do a lot of different things, making this creature legendary, make it harder to block, etc., etc., etc. On top of that, whenever you choose a creature as a Ring Bearer, you may pay 2 life if you do draw a card. So yes, there's different ways to interact with, the Ring Bearer and making, some cool plays with that. That being said, yeah, at the very least, this is like, hey, if you're choosing a creature as your Ring Bearer each time, Yeah, you just get to pay 2 life to draw a card each time. So that's just like free greed, kind of. I mean, greed costing 2 more. Obviously, you have to pay mana to actually draw those cards. That is repeatable, that being said. Yeah, this is kind of like a lower to the ground Phyrexian Arena in a way, as long as you've got creatures with 2s as your ring bearers. So there you go. I mean, it does cost obviously twice as much life to draw a card, but again, we are in Commander. Hey, you start at 40 life. That's plenty of life. That's you can do 20 activations of this, I guess, if no other effects make you lose life. But of course, obviously, you've got life gain synergies out there. You've got ways to, life swap. You've got plenty of ways to make up for that life and say, you know what? That's okay. That's all right. I'll take the life loss. And of course, there are decks out there that even want to lose life, like my old Selenia Dark Angel deck loves losing life. So yeah, I mean, if this card was budget friendly, it's not around $6 right now. Yeah, this is a great, again, low to the ground, repeatable draw engine that, yes, does cost a bit more life than you're typically going to pay for drawing cards. Usually it's 1 life per 1 card when it comes to black. That being said, yeah, this is hyper efficient. So, hey, there you go. Plus all those benefits, again, of the ring tempting you. Enjoy this one. Yeah, this is a very, very good card. Not surprising to see it already at 10% with this number. But now let's move on to number 4 with Minas Tirith, a 13.4% already. Yeah, these cards are creeping up there, becoming very, very popular very, very quickly. This is, I believe, the most expensive out of the legendary lands at $3.24. Obviously not that surprising since it's the most expensive one. It's probably the most played one, and yeah, that's true. It's a legendary land. Enters battle for tap to control a legendary creature. Again, exact same thing. Tap for a white. Also pay 1 in a white. Tap. Draw a card. Gross. Activate only if you activate only if you attack with 2 or more creatures this turn. So this one again, I mean, Rivendell gave you card selection, which is great, but this one gives you straight up card advantage. Now, the requirement is, hey, you had to attack with 2 more creatures this turn. That's a pretty low requirement. Again, if you're in a somewhat aggressive deck or a deck that's got some evasive creatures, yeah, you're pretty incentivized to be like, sure, I'll pay. I do say it is 2 mana, but you did tap this land right as initial cost. So it's kind of like 3 mana because there's that loss of being able to use this land for mana. So kind of like 3 mana tap, draw a card just on a land. That's a pretty good value. I mean, Miko Koro, Son of the Sea, I think that's the one, right? That costs 2 tap, draw. Each player draws a card. That one allows everyone to draw a card. This one's just like, no. Just you. Or again, is that activation requirement. That being said, it's pretty low. Only 2 creatures attacking. That's a pretty low requirement to actually get to for the right deck. So again, if you're in a go wide strategy, if you've got evasive creatures, if you've got a token strategy, yeah, a lot of decks out there that are in white meet those requirements. So sure, this deck's gonna be like, yeah, let's just utilize this again. Utility land with very, very, very low downside of potentially entering the battlefield tapped. And again, most of the time you're going to utilize this as a draw engine. Anytime you can find a draw engine on a land, well, that can be a very, very good thing. So yeah, Minas Tirith, not surprising to see this one up there already. Again, yet another card that mono white is getting for card advantage, which is fantastic. But Wizards, please give us some more budget-friendly ones. I mean, maybe some commons, uncommons that actually draw cards too, please. But yeah, still, pickers can't be choosers, right? And that's not the phrase. I don't know. Anyways, Minas Tirith currently at 4th place with 13.4%. But now let's move on to 3rd place with 15.1% already. That is a ton of eligible decks out there that are utilizing this. Mirkwood Bats. Yeah, that's a very good card. It's a common 2/3 bat with flying that costs 3 and a black. Just 24 cents. I don't know why I switched that. 42 cents. There we go. 42 cents. Currently still very budget friendly. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each player loses 1 life. Each opponent loses 1 life. So, hey, yeah, let's drain our opponents. And again, in a Aristocrat style strategy, in a treasure-based strategy, those can be fantastic ways to do that because, yeah, just think about just creating 1 treasure, right? It's already a great amount of value for you, right? You sacrifice it for, mana. Great, cool. But now also on top of that, you made a token, you sacrificed a token. That's draining each opponent too. You making that 1 treasure is basically minus 6 life. Now across 3 opponents, but still minus 6 life for just making 1 treasure. Or again, making any kind of a creature token like a servo or whatnot, and then sacrificing it again for the right deck out there. You've got free sacrifice outs, Viserys here, etc. You're like, okay, cool, I made a token. Cool, you all lose 1 life. Sacrifice that token. You all lose 1 life. And I get whatever other benefits I get for sacrificing that token in my Aristocrat style strategy. So yeah, this one, again, that 4 mana is a bit more than some of the other effects out there like Blood Artist and whatnot, but it is kind of like doubling up the draining of certain things. Again, tokens. And again, this counts not just creature tokens, counts any other tokens, like I said, treasures, clues, blood. I don't know why I said blood before food, but yeah. typically, you see more food tokens out there than blood tokens. Regardless, you see a lot of tokens being played out there, and this can do a ton of work for you. So yeah, not surprised to see this one up there again at third at 15% already. But now it's time for us to move on to second place. And yeah, of course, Orcish Bowmasters is here and is making a giant impact again. The card that the rules committee most likely has their eye on the most, I think they already kind of mentioned that essentially, when it comes to a potential ban, but they didn't really say they're going to potentially ban it. It's more like we'll keep our eye on it. And I did actually an entire episode on, if this would be banned or not, in my opinion. Make sure you check that out. Regardless, hey, this card is $33. This is a very expensive card, way out of my budget, out of a lot of players' budgets as well, and it's already seeing play in 16% of eligible decks out there again. For a card that is so expensive, that is very impressive. That is already seeing that much play. We shall see what happens with that price and also with that percentage. This thing can pack a punch. A 1/1 Orc Archer with Flash that costs 1 and a black, enters the battlefield whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw into the draw steps, deals 1 damage to any target, then a Mass Orcs 1. Massing Orcs 1, that's nice. Again, sure, if someone drew, I don't know, you have last March Dance, right? Someone drew 15 cards or whatever. They have a giant creature with a lot of toughness. Cool. They drew 15 cards. You're now making a giant 15/15. Nice. More importantly, though, you're pinging for 15 damage spread however you want. Now, the way that this card maybe should have been designed was like, hey, the player that drew that many cards gets that damage or whatever it is. It's not how it is. You can spread that damage out to however you want. You can spread it to just one player's face. You can spread it to, not even player's face who actually drew the cards. You can be like, oh, that player's low. Let's take them out. Cool. Or take out, the most, threatening creatures or planeswalkers in play. You can spread that damage out however you want. So yeah, that's why it's so impactful. And of course, there's a lot of ways for players to draw a lot of cards. It doesn't have to be their own effect of drawing cards. You can force them to draw the cards, with wheels. Even if, you have Magus the Wheel and play, you sacrifice it, everyone discards their hand, draws 7, you play this, that's 21 damage that you are spreading around, plus you get a 21/21, so lovely. Yeah, this is a low to the ground, flashy creature. Again, it can flash in, so you can essentially say, yeah, I don't know where this is happening, and again, you can benefit from it by, punishing your opponents when they do things, or when you're doing things that force them to draw those cards as well. So yeah, this is an incredible card. One that, again, might be on the ban list radar of the rules committee, and one that is making a giant impact already. Again, 16% of eligible decks at $33. That is pretty crazy. But let's move on to the number 1 place, the most played card so far from Lord of the Rings, the main set, Delighted Halfling. Might only cost 1 mana. But my goodness, is this a crazy good card. And yeah, it's already a $15 card. Again, pretty expensive. Very expensive in my opinion. Not nearly as expensive as Orcish Bowmasters, like half the price. But still, 18.5%. That is crazy for a card that, again, has only been out for like 3 weeks or whatever it has been, actually, since when that set came. I think it was like June 20th. Regardless, yeah, that is a ton. This is only 1/2 Halfling Citizen for a single green mana, like I talked about. Tap for a colorless. So basically, like Boreal. Is it Boreal Elves? Boreal Druid? Whatever it is. That basically does that. But on top of that, hey, tap at 1 mana of any color. Spend a spell to cast a legendary spell. That spell can't be countered. Okay. So basically, better Birds of Paradise? I mean, not better in certain ways, right? Birds of Paradise, yes, has flying. It's a 0. I think it's a 0/1, right? So there are times where, like, oh, you can pump it. It gets through on someone. Cool. Or it can block something that this couldn't block. Also, that can always tap for 1 mana of any color. Cool. But this one's like, no, hey, yeah, your commander, never going to be countered as long as I'm in play, essentially. I'm just going to tap for whatever mana to help you fix for your commander. You cast it, can't be countered. So kind of like Cavern of Souls-ish, essentially, but without, the creature type requirement on that. That's pretty crazy. That is really crazy, actually. And yes, there are times when this is worse than Birds of Paradise, right? This is like, okay, no, I can only tap for a colorless because, you're not casting a legendary spell. That being said, again, the potential this has for, well, any deck that really wants to protect its commander and be able to get it out. That being said, also with any deck that, when there's a lot more commanders out there, like the new Joda, that are like, hey, let's do Legendary Tribal Matters decks. Yeah, there's a lot of new ones out there for that. And this is like, yeah, hey, let's make all of our spells uncounterable. Yeah, again, definitely a great Birds of Paradise comparison, but also potentially even better than that in many circumstances. Kind of like Birds of Paradise with Cavern of Souls mixed together and just, Yeah, that's going to be a very expensive, very good card. Not surprising to see it's already at 18%. I mean, I guess I'm surprised to see it already there, but it's going to get there at some point. We'll see what the future holds for this one, though. How high that percentage gets, how high that price gets, yeah, this is a very impactful card. But yeah, those are the cards right now that are making a massive splash in Commander. And of course, there are plenty of other ones out there, well, from the main set and the precons as well, that are making a giant splash too. Let me know in the comments below which cards you think might get there someday. Which cards you think might start creeping up in these lists, you know, for the top 10%. Which cards came out in this set that you think are going to make a massive impact as things keep going on. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.